Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
For writers and public personalities, it's becoming increasingly important to have an online presence. This normally takes the form of a website and social media. However, things like a cluttered site or broken links can scare potential readers away. It's time to get a health check. Until the 30th of June, Black Wolf Editorial Services is offering a special website health check package. Get a new bio for your site. Have the site navigation and general layout assessed. Get a review of your Twitter activities. Get an objective opinion about your public Facebook page. Find out what works well and what could potentially scare your readers away. And all this for $35. At the end of the day, the face we put online will be the one that most people will see. Let us help you put your best foot forward. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For full details and a list of other services, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. All right, this is Jessie. All right. I haven't been able to be with you live the past couple days due to circumstances beyond my control. It's been a conglomeration of work things, personal things, and all kinds of stuff. Now, I was digging through my recordings, and I found a show that was recorded that you guys have never heard. So, I decided to bring you that tonight. All right, let's take a listen. This is Jessie, and I'm happy to be back with you. Yes, I miss you when I'm not with you guys. I'm sorry this show is so late going up tonight, but I can't do anything without electricity. But I got a special thing for you tonight. I'm not alone. Nope, I'm not alone. I've got my friend Bill. On Twitter, he's usually known as @DefendWallStreet. How you doing tonight there, Bill?
Usually people don't call me special without including the word Ed after it, so that was pretty nice.
Hey, I don't insult anybody, at least not on air, unless you're the turkey in chief, or you're throwing a Trumper tantrum, or you can't keep classified information to yourself.
Or keep it on a server.
Oh, you mean you shouldn't have had. Now, before we get into emails and all that fun stuff, I think you're one of the few members or extended members of the K98 Talk family that has not had a chance to talk about the shooting on air. So, and I will say up front, every member of the K98 Talk family does feel for the victims. Our anger is at the shooter. The victims, as far as I know, Bill, I don't think you're going to say that the victims did anything wrong.
The victims didn't do anything wrong, but it's hard to do anything right when you're not when you're not prepared for something, right? Like
being in a gun-free zone?
Yeah, maybe if somebody had had a gun in that club, they'd have shot him. I don't know.
Personally, I try and avoid gun-free zones, except for a few select ones that I have no choice in the matter with. But I do try and avoid them. I even live in a gated community.
Well, the thing is that we had a situation where 50 people were basically murdered by a dude with an AR-15 with a rifle.
That everyone wants to use the scary term assault rifle with. And, there was a politician that said that the assault rifle used in the shooting could fire 700 rounds a minute.
Oh, that was Keith Ellison, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
He's a moron.
No kidding. And I'm sorry, an AR-15 cannot fire 700 rounds a minute. Maybe an AK-47, but I think that's even pushing that.
Actually, I think the barrel would start to melt after 500 or 600 rounds. I mean, if it were chrome lined, it might not, but
yeah, your standard.
I think the barrel might start to warp after.
Okay, so maybe I don't know.
I mean, a sustained rate of fire. Yeah, I mean, I think the barrel would start to warp.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry.
That's a lot of heat.
That is, and that's something that it's obvious he knows nothing. What was that politician's name again?
Keith Ellison. Yeah. No. Alan Grayson. I'm sorry. I get them mixed up all the time.
Alan Grayson obviously knows nothing or next to nothing about a firearm. He may know that they go bang.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm aware that one of them is black and one of them is white. I just get them mixed up because they're morons. I don't know why.
Well, it's easy to confuse morons.
Yeah, I get Keith Ellison and Alan Grayson confused because their names sort of sound familiar, sort of sound similar. Grayson, Ellis, I don't know. I'm an idiot. But then
I
again,
don't
in
think
my
you're an
defense,
idiot,
so
or I
are
wouldn't
they.
have you on the show.
But in my defense, so are they. Because
I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know anyone well enough to say that, but I can say that anyone who can tell you tries to tell you that a semi-automatic weapon can fire 700 rounds a minute, they're definitely uneducated about firearms.
yeah, to be really honest with you, I speaking strictly as a gun nut, I actually don't think that a sustained rate of 700 rounds a minute would be possible with a modern civilian AR-15, mostly because they're just the barrels are cold. Most of the barrels are cold hammer forged. So I mean, I'm not even quite sure that they would stand. They're designed to do something like that.
Well, you try.
Which is why you're not supposed to try to convert them to full auto.
Yeah, you try getting one that's full auto and meant for it. Ha ha.
Yeah, because the equipment and the barrel and the firing pin and the bolt carrier and all that stuff is probably, I would assume, is probably, probably designed for that type. Because metal, as we learned with September 11th, certain types of metal have certain different tolerances to heat and cold, and they melt and they warp and they bend and whatever. So, I'm actually not quite sure that a civilian rifle would be able to do that anyway. But I mean, I digress. It is a stupid comment. It's sort of like saying that firing an AR-15 gave you PTSD or a shoulder boo-boo.
Well, the shoulder boo-boo, if he wasn't holding it right, I could see that as a possibility. Although it doesn't have much recoil, but if you're being a complete idiot with it, I could see it. Although I had an active duty soldier who went through basic training, said that the first thing when the drill sergeants, I think they are in the Army, take you out to the range for the first time, they put the AR-15 on their nose and fire it, so you won't be scared of it. They brace it up.
I'm sure I would enjoy that.
I'm sure they've all learned how to hold it well enough in their hands to avoid the recoil. But yeah, they put it right on the tip of their nose and fire around. Just one.
Wow.
For one, you could probably grip well enough, especially if you knew.
Tough but fair.
But that way you're not scared of it. That way the soldiers aren't scared of their M16, because
I would think if you were scared of the M16, you would probably look for a new job.
Well, some people, they're scared because they have never shot one. They're not necessarily scared of it in and of itself. They're just more uneducated and not sure about it. And I could see that. Hey, I've had many a friend who I've taken shooting for the first time ever in their life. And they weren't too sure about guns before, they got a chance to fire them. Once they understood the safety and how to go about handling them properly, none of them were scared of them again.
Yeah, well, that does happen.
Yeah.
So the Daily News sent a reporter to a firing range to test out an AR-15, and his name is Gersh Kuntzman. Please, no jokes about his last name. And he fired.
He's still a moron.
Yes, I know. He fired an AR-15 for the first time in his life, and he described it as terrifying, utterly terrifying, akin to firing a bazooka. It gave me an injury to my shoulder, and I believe it may have also given me PTSD.
Time out. If that's how you get PTSD, then every soldier in the United States Army, at least, practically all the armed forces, because I believe they all go to the range at least once a year, most of them at least twice a year. Even if you're in the band, you shoot twice a year. I'm sorry. Firing a weapon does not give you PTSD. There had to...
If it did, the ranges would be full of them. There'd be nobody at gun ranges if that were the case.
I know, no kidding. I mean, I'm sorry, I rather enjoy firing. Now, I will admit I haven't taken our AR-15 out in a while, and yes, we have an actual AR-15. We have the 223 version, as you and I were discussing off-air, but my husband uses it to practice shooting about 2 to 3 weeks before he knows he's going to the range with the military, with the Army. He'll take it out and work on firing in the different positions that he's going to have to fire at the range so that he'll shoot better and get a better score when it comes time, because his unit does what a lot of non-infantry units do. They go to the range twice a year. And then they wonder why the soldiers don't score that high.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I actually go to the range more than he does. I go twice a week.
Well, you go to the range more than the Army requires him to go. He often takes a handgun and goes to a...
I don't like handguns.
Yeah, no, but... Yeah,
you come into my house, you're going to eat some 5.56.
Well, not if I'm invited.
Oh, this is true.
Please don't serve me that for dinner.
That's okay, I won't. But yeah, it's incredible. I'll tell you a really funny story. When I first bought my AR-15, it was the first gun I had ever purchased. It was for me. I didn't want a handgun. I wanted or a pistol or whatever you want to call it. I really wanted to buy. Really wanted to buy a rifle, and the AR-15. That was it for me. I didn't want a shotgun. I didn't want a pistol. I didn't want a 38 special. I wanted an AR-15, and I went out and I bought one, and could not have been happier with it. And a lot of people say that that's a really insane thing to do, and I totally agree. Although I was happy with mine, I always recommend people start with a handgun and work their way up because, you may not like it. I did, but you may not. And when I first took it to the range, I had absolutely no clue how to use it. I had like a rough idea. And I just remember going to this range in New Jersey.
Okay, first of all, New Jersey's not that gun-friendly a state. I'll bet you had to jump through 3 weeks of hoops to get that thing.
The firearm in New Jersey, the process to buy a long rifle or a shotgun is that you only are required to have a firearm purchase card. It's basically a permit that enables you an unlimited amount of purchases of rifles and shotguns.
A firearm purchase card?
Correct.
I went to my home state, which is not in the Northeast. It is, in fact, Oklahoma. At least that's the state of my legal residence, not where I currently live, thank you. And I'd flown out there. I walked into a gun store, picked out a Glock 19, which is a handgun, paid for it, fired it, had fun with it, walked out of the store, cleaned it that night, and declared it as a separate piece of checked luggage the next day when I flew home.
Yeah, we're not into that here. We have laws here.
Oklahoma has laws too, but they're just a more gun-friendly state, thank you.
Well, New Jersey, I would say, is not so bad as far as the Northeast goes. In New York State, I'm not even going to tell you what the laws are in New York. They're ridiculous.
I don't even want to know what the laws are.
Yeah, and Massachusetts is worse than all of them.
And because I don't have my duct tape handy to keep my head from exploding, so we're going to skip that.
In New Jersey, a firearm purchase card enables you to buy an unlimited amount of ammo and an unlimited amount of rifles and shotguns. I could literally go down to a store, buy one right now, then go to another store 3 towns over and buy another one. No questions asked. The only thing they do is they do a federal background check, which
that's
comes
mandatory.
Back anywhere between 3 minutes and 15 minutes, and then you got your gun.
I had to go through the federal background check, too. Now, question. Since we're discussing the shooting in Orlando, do you think that if you are on the terrorist watch list, you should be unable to purchase a firearm without a more thorough background check, or without a second step happening?
No.
Okay, explain why.
For a lot of reasons. I mean, yeah, I sort of dig where people go with that whole thing, like, oh, well, then Obama will just put every Republican on the list. I really don't buy into that kind of stuff. I mean, this isn't like 1790. They're not gonna. You can't really do stuff like that anymore. People are a little bit too, I don't know, aware and
there's
connected.
Too much social media.
Yeah, there's too much information that goes around. Like, you would never be able to do something that ridiculous. Although, I basically take the NRA position, which is that nobody who's on the list should be able to buy a gun without some scrutinizing. There has to be. I mean, if you're on a terror watch list, you didn't get there by accident. You know what I mean? Now, in terms of this guy, Omar,
that got on the terror watch list because of a misspelling in the name.
And that happens.
And that was an accident, but they were also removed after a brief investigation. They were removed. I think they were probably off the list within 2 or 3 months, which for the government is doing anything in 2 or 3 months is practically a miracle.
Yeah. It took me 6 months to get a copy of my birth certificate.
What state were you born in?
New Jersey.
Oy vey.
Yeah, I know. Just saying. You go to the DMV. That's the other thing. The Huffington Post wrote a story saying that they went to a gun store and they bought an AR-15 in 28 minutes exactly. And they said, oh, well, it was faster than standing online at the DMV. And, now my takeaway from that is...
First of all, what state was the reporter in? First of all,
it was Florida.
Okay.
I
don't know the gun
pretty
laws in Florida.
Pretty much every state that has some measure of gun control laws, the thing that they all agree on for some reason or other is that rifles, shotguns, and long guns don't have waiting periods, as far as I've been able to find out. Like, New Jersey has no waiting period. You could literally go into a store and buy a gun, and that's it. I memean, you would get it. As long as you have the permit.
Right.
Or
now, what about a handgun?
Handguns need permits in New Jersey. You need a firearm card to buy anything else. In New Jersey, like I said, in New Jersey, I could just go into a store, say I want to buy a shotgun, and then go to the next town and buy another one. They can't say anything to you. Now, in Florida, there is no waiting period for rifles, shotguns, long guns. There is a 3-day mandatory waiting period on handguns. Now, why that is, I don't know. But
I think I can kind of explain that. There was a period of time where the handgun was more feared than the AR-15, than the rifle.
What, 1955?
No, it was back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. Because handguns were the bad gun then. Because people were committing homicide with them, and that was the big thing. And they were, there was when an employee walked into the post office and shot the place up and stuff like that, and it was all handguns.
going postal.
Exactly, and that was handguns. He didn't use a long rifle. He used a handgun. But I'm sorry, you cannot get PTSD from just firing a weapon. Unless you have underlying mental health issues. Then maybe there's something going on. So if that reporter...
Then you shouldn't have a gun to begin with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then maybe you shouldn't have that gun to start with. So,
thankfully I don't think the reporter in this story that said he got PTSD from firing it actually purchased one. He probably rented one just to fire it.
Well, he went to a range. In fact, it's a range that I've been to. which is owned by a guy, I think his last name is Reznikov or something like that. He's a Russian or Georgian or something. It's called Double Tap, I think. They're in Philadelphia. Ironically in West Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia has a gun range?
It does. And I imagine that there are many people who are born and raised there who go to the range after they play b-ball.
And I'm sure
okay,
there's some
that's a Fresh Prince joke. Never mind.
Yes, I know.
I really wanted to fit that in.
All right, well, you got in your.
But no, it's the range is actually it really is in West Philadelphia.
I'm assuming
so, yeah,
it's a range. Not all ranges do have rental weapons available, but I'm assuming this was one that did.
I think they do. I haven't been there in
either that
a
or
couple
he
of
made
years.
arrangements with somebody else that owned the weapon to use it at the range, and they said meet me here. But it was one of those things. I don't believe the reporter who claimed that the thing could fire 700. He got PTSD from it.
He said it was like firing a bazooka.
I'm sorry. I don't know anybody that actually fired a bazooka in ages. And second of all, the closest thing you'd come to say to firing a bazooka this day and age would probably be an RPG. And you'd remember that a lot more than an AR-15, darling.
I just thought his description was very funny, but what I found was that the reporter is deeply, deeply lacking in masculinity. And the reason I say this is because the story that I was originally trying to tell before I decided to go off on a tangent about New Jersey gun laws was that the very first time that I went to the range with my weapon, they partnered me with an instructor. And we went into the port, and he was showing me how to load it and unload it and all that other stuff. And I'll never forget the person who was in the port next to me was like this 15-year-old Korean girl who was like 5'2", 100 pounds, and she's sitting there shooting an AR-15, and I just I never forgot that. I thought that was so odd that there were like all these little, because this range is in like a really Korean neighborhood, and there's like all these little Korean and Indian girls and stuff, and they're like, maybe the tallest one is 5'5".
Wow.
And they're all sitting there shooting shotguns and AR-15s. It's a cool range, it was the first range. I don't go to this particular range anymore, but it's a cool range. They have like birthday stuff for kids. I mean, there are a lot of kids and women and stuff. And so I just remember thinking,
that's cool. I think women should learn how to shoot.
Yeah, and I remember I just when I read Gersh Kunstman's story the other day on the Daily News, I remember thinking back to that time, and I'm like, wow, this guy is less masculine than a 15-year-old Korean? Like, how is that possible?
Trust me, in the era of everyone's special and everybody gets a trophy and stress cards in basic training to tell your drill instructors you need time away from them, and safe spaces, come on, who are we kidding?
Are you kidding me? They have safe spaces now from the DIs?
Not a basic training, but trust me, every college campus is trying to institute safe spaces.
Oh my God! Because I was going to say, wow, that's the end of the Army right there.
They do have stress cards where the drill instructor has to leave you alone. I think it's either for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but you only
get the hell out of here! Really?
Dead serious. Now.
Oh my God.
My husband did not go through when they had stress cards. That is a recent development, and I have talked to active duty soldiers who think it is stupid. I'm sorry, but if you can't handle the stress of a drill sergeant, a drill instructor, or whoever it is yelling at you, you can't handle the stress of being in the military. All right. Perfect example.
Wow.
And this isn't even from an infantry unit story. This is from a Patriot missile battery unit that I'm familiar with, and that it is called an air defense artillery unit. Patriot missiles are designed to shoot down other missiles. The Patriots took out the Scuds in Gulf One, if you know, just to connect the dots here. That's what they were firing to knock the Scuds down. Okay?
Uh-huh.
All right, so you have X amount of time to reload that system so they can fire again. And you have to do this with all, excuse my language, all hell breaking loose around you. Because, trust me, the launchers are about a minimum of 90 to 100 feet, yards apart. But still, you've got people running around. You've got to stay focused on your task, and there's people yelling and screaming, and there's debris coming off other launchers when they fire, and there's all kinds of things going on. And if you can't handle the stress of being yelled at, how are you going to handle trying to do this with, when you know that the security team defending your base is taking incoming fire and there's mortar rounds blasting a couple more football fields away from you, and they're trying to take out the mortar, the idiot firing the mortar, so he doesn't take anything else out. How are you going to handle that kind of stress? And that's not an infantry unit on the front line. That's a unit that's pretty much in the rear. So, I mean, I will say one thing. Air Defense Artillery Unit deployments are usually, quote, in the rear, wherever all the other, like your infantry units, will go for R&R. And I'm not kidding you. So I call, in some ways, the term I came up with is they're deployment light. So I know some Air Defense Artillery Unit locations where you can actually have a drink at night. You can have a beer at the end of your shift.
Ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea, but...
It is limited. It's tied to your ID card, and you're limited by how many you can have.
I hope so.
I think the limit was either 2 or 3. So it was a pretty low limit. And it's only beer that they provide.
Oh, so it's probably really low in alcohol content, too.
I think it's your standard Coors type stuff.
Oh, God, I'd rather not drink.
Like I said, so it's kind of, like I said, but Air Defense Artillery Unit or Patriot Missile Units, they are kind of deployment light. But they are also, the good thing about those units is they are a show of force. They are the big dog in the front yard. A Patriot missile system setup is the size of a tractor trailer.
So like those rockets they shoot at Godzilla in those Godzilla movies on the trucks.
Yeah. Something kind of like that, exactly. I mean...
Yep. I know, I've seen them. I watch movies.
They are, but I mean, these things are the size of tractor trailers. And, so they do make a good show of force. Oh, I was talking to somebody about Korea the other day. And I'm going to diverge for a minute. And they said, well, why do we have 40,000 troops over there? We don't. We have 28,500 approximately. And a large number of those are for air defense artillery to make sure North Korea doesn't actually shoot something off to hit land in South Korea.
Yeah.
And then, so you've got the really low stuff that I don't know what's going to take it out. I'm talking like, 10, what was it, a bottle rocket type height, doesn't get over 50, 100 feet. I don't know what's going to take that out. So you got your, I'll call them, amateur rockets. Then you've got Patriot missiles, which they're not allowed to use Patriot missiles anymore to shoot down airplanes. Because there was a mistake with one way back in the day. I don't remember when, but it was way back, and somebody shot down a civilian airliner with one. So they're no longer allowed to take them down. Now, they are radar-controlled, not heat-seeking controlled. So the
Which
odds...
is why you can't use them on planes.
Well, you can... Okay, they're designed so that you can, but they're not allowed to use them on planes without extremely special permission. as in this better be coming down from on high, as in presidential, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The person issuing this order better have stars on their chest. Or be the civilian on top of it all. So, but yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. The person issuing the order to shoot down a plane with the Patriot missile system had either better be a commander-in-chief or, Secretary of the Army or something like that.
Something impressive.
Yeah, one of the 5-sided building types or the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue types, okay?
President Ash Carter.
President Ash Carter, something along those lines, exactly.
I like to call him President Ash Carter.
Please, I do not want him as president any more than I want Donald Trump. Now, before we get... But anyway, so let's... by the way, did you know North Korea is back at it again with their nuclear weapons? They want to build 4 more.
Oh, that's every other week.
Oh, no. They've actually restarted their reactors. And
oh, yeah, I know. I saw that on TV.
Now, here's the thing. I did a special about it right after they restarted their reactors. It was one of my first shows I did. Way back. It was one of my first ever shows. And just now, the IAEA is putting out its official report. How many months later? How many months have I been on the air now? 3? 2? They're now coming out and saying, yep, they're doing it again. And I'm sitting here going, I told you they were doing it again 3 months ago. And if I can figure
North Koreans are... Until they started putting people in jail, I actually considered going on a tour of North Korea, one of those Canadian tours that they do.
They don't allow... Well, put it this way, it's very hard for a U.S. passport holder to
go
on certain tours.
I'm talking like 10 or 12 years ago, before Kim Jong-un died.
Before Kim Jong-il died and Kim Jong-un took over.
Yeah. I get them confused. Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-un, Kim Il-sung.
Kim Il-sung was the founder. Kim Jong-il.
Yeah, well, yeah. Kim Il-sung was the father. Was the grandfather, and
Kim Jong-il was the next one. Now we got Kim Jong-un, who loves basketball, and I don't think the man's ever missed a meal, and he walks around as if he's got the best job on the planet.
He has broken ankles from being so fat, in fact.
I read that, but I wasn't able to get...
Did you know that?
I read something about that he'd had a broken ankle from that, but I also heard there was a stress fracture and that they were treating it. So... Well,
that would occur. Well, the North Koreans make their shoes out of wood. You know that, right?
No, they don't.
Well, the bottoms of them are made out of wood. The soles are made out of wood.
For the peasants, but not for the factory workers. They actually provide...
Well, I'm not sure. Well, his shoes are probably imports.
Leather.
But
yeah, I guarantee you they are.
But
no, the factory
either way,
workers,
he's incredibly overweight, and I'm sure that weight is bearing down on his ankle.
His ankle, his knees, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Probably his diabetes.
He is what I believe, and I'm not a medical doctor, but he looks to me to be in the morbidly obese category.
Oh, I would say that's a pretty safe bet without being a doctor or even looking at WebMD. He's easily 150 pounds overweight.
All right.
The fattest thing in North Korea.
No kidding.
That includes the animals.
So, all right. Well, since we've touched on North Korea and we're at the bottom of the hour, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
For writers and public personalities, it's becoming increasingly important to have an online presence. This normally takes the form of a website and social media. However, things like a cluttered site or broken links can scare potential readers away. It's time to get a health check. Until the 30th of June, Black Wolf Editorial Services is offering a special website health check package. Get a new bio for your site. Have the site navigation and general layout assessed. Get a review of your Twitter activities. Get an objective opinion about your public Facebook page. Find out what works well and what could potentially scare your readers away. And all this for $35. At the end of the day, the face we put online will be the one that most people will see. Let us help you put your best foot forward. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For full details and a list of other services, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right. Thank you guys for holding in there with me while I paid those bills. Got to pay those bills, you know. If not, I don't get to keep talking. So, all right. All right, Bill. So, we were talking about North Korea. Let's stick in the same region. China. South China Sea disputes. Okay, first of all, let me see if I've got this audio pulled up. No, I don't have the audio pulled up. I have had, by the way, guys out there listening, I've had a very rough technical night. I've had one computer completely not cooperate, and a power outage, and some internet glitches. So it is by sheer willpower I'm doing this show tonight. So I had to change computers. Not all my files made it over. So, you know, hey, bear with me. But South China Sea, China sent ships to shadow the USS Stennis as it was passing through the South China Sea. Oh, yeah, they aren't leaving our... A Chinese spy ship shadows the USS John C. Stennis during naval exercises. And this is a story off Fox News. Reuters reported, citing a Japanese official, that the USS John C. Stennis joined 9 other naval ships, a Japanese military helicopter, and Indian frigates in the waters off the Japanese Okinawan island chain. Submarine hunting patrol planes also joined in the annual exercise. Well, when the USS Stennis acted as a decoy and tried to draw the spy ship away from the naval exercise, China did follow them, but we're not sure if it was the only thing. So, now, for those of you who have not been keeping up, China created artificial islands so they could claim more of the water as theirs. Then, this whole dispute over the Shoalin or the Spratlys or whatever you want to call these islands in the South China Sea, it is disputed. It is actually in arbitration at The Hague. But here's the fun part about that. China's already come out and said, we are not going to abide by whatever that decision is unless it means we get everything we want. That doesn't sound like negotiations. Doesn't that sound like a bully?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
China is trying to take over 80 or more % of the South China Sea so that nobody else really has any. That means they can't fish there, they can't have their boats there, they can't do naval exercises there.
Here's the thing. How do we know that those things won't just be wiped out by a tsunami anyway?
Can
somebody
send a tsunami that way? I'd love to have it happen.
No, really. I mean, I'm being totally serious. I mean, how do you know a typhoon or a tsunami won't just sink the damn things?
Who knows?
I'm being serious.
I'm serious. I don't know how the islands were built. I never looked into that.
Well, I hope it's better than the way they make Donald Trump's clothes. It's not going to go good for them.
Oh, good grief. I knew you were going to pull a Trump joke. I was just waiting for when.
Oh, come on, look. China's this weird country, right? Like, it threatens, it saber rattles, but nobody's ever actually really been in a war with China, right? Like, most people didn't even know China existed until the 1930s. Nobody's ever been in a real war with them, so nobody knows what the hell the Chinese would ever do in a war. I mean, people say, well, you can't go to war with the Chinese because they have a huge army and it's really well trained. And I go, well, can you name any victories their military's ever won? Well, but they're really well trained. And I go, yeah, but if a reputation is never tested, it's not worth anything. The Germans supposedly have a great army until 1945.
Yeah.
We tested that reputation. It didn't last.
Nope.
It didn't hold up.
We sent the German army packing. Oh, and what about the fierce Iraqi special forces that weren't going to let us enter Iraq or Baghdad? You got Baghdad and Baghdad Bob on the radio going, "It's all great here," and the tank and they weren't tanks. The Bradley fighting vehicles are rolling down the street. And he's going, not a troop in sight.
Yeah, exactly, and that's my point.
Hello, right? Hello, dose of reality to Baghdad Bob.
Here's the thing. China's government is so fragile. It basically holds on to control through an image of supremacy and strength. And I don't really believe that the Chinese, especially in this day and age, I really, really, really don't believe the Chinese would ever engage in a military combat against anybody, even if it was Australia.
I don't
because
think
if
China
they got wiped, if they got the floor wiped with them, they would collapse. The country would collapse. Because the army's the only thing that the people fear. And if the government is powerless and it loses in a military exercise, the fear is worth nothing.
I agree with you 100%, but there is a document that came out of China a number of years ago called the Unrestricted Warfare Plan.
Yes, I've heard about that.
And it's about militarizing and weaponizing everyday things.
That's correct.
And In fact, I have to say my favorite author, Brad Thor, used it in one of his novels, and I'll be darned at the moment if I can remember which one it was. And he just had a new one come out. So, I'm happy.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, people always do this. They go, well, you can't get into a war with the Chinese. You can't get into a... My favorite one is when they go, well, you can't fight a war with the Russians. Why not? Russia's economy is in the toilet. Half of their population is above the age of 50.
The only thing I fear about getting into a war with Russia
is nukes.
Is MAD, mutually assured destruction from nuclear weapons. Now, what scares me even more than the Russians having nukes, ISIS is trying to get its hands on nuclear weapons, and not necessarily, they're obviously probably not going to be able to get their hands on the city killers like us and Russia and various other nuclear powers have. But what's to stop them from making a dirty bomb or 20 dirty bombs?
Very little.
And ISIS has even said that they will make these dirty bombs and smuggle them in through our southern border with all the undocumented or illegals that are running across the border.
I'd like to know where those missing Russian suitcase bombs are. You know about those, right? After 9/11?
Yes.
I wonder where those are, because you're talking about ISIS and coming across the border. ISIS is pretty filthy with money right now, and in general, they're just filthy as it is. But they've
lost a lot of income lately because they've lost territory with some of their wells and things.
But they still have a lot of money, and money can buy things. And the Russians are poverty-stricken degenerates now. Who knows what the Russians or somebody might sell them? And so I always think about those dirty bombs, those suitcase bombs.
I don't worry about the Russians selling them so much as I worry about Pakistan or...
Pakistan's a problem.
Or what about unguarded stuff in the Ukraine?
Ukraine is also a problem. Pakistan, I think, is a more immediate one because we made the Ukrainians give up most of their nuclear deterrent.
Here's the thing. They gave up a lot of it, but not all of it, and we hadn't gotten it all out when the whole debacle started.
Yeah.
So there's still some of it there.
But Pakistan is a country that's terrorist friendly, though. Ukraine's not exactly friendly. I mean, that it wouldn't be difficult to get, but it would be harder.
The Ukraine currently is known as a black market arms bazaar. I am not kidding you. It is currently known for being a black market weapons bazaar.
Well, and there's a lot of good reasons for that, too. Opportunism being one of them. But Pakistan I'm afraid of because, like I said, the government there is just so sympathetic to terrorists. And they got the good stuff. The Ukrainians, whatever they have left isn't very much. The Pakistanis have a lot of good stuff. And they can make their own stuff, too. They have the scientists to make it.
And what about all the places that ISIS has taken over? They can get lower-grade nuclear stuff, which is strong enough to make dirty bombs out of hospitals and research facilities and all other kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you talk about bombs. Look at that guy that was arrested on Sunday after the shooting in Orlando.
Yeah.
They had that guy that was arrested out in Los Angeles trying to blow up the gay pride parade out there.
Yeah, and he wasn't even allowed to own
10.5 pounds of tannerite on him.
And he isn't even legally allowed to own firearms.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that came out.
Well, he has when they arrested him, he had 10.5 pounds of tannerite on him. That's a lot of explosive.
It is.
Where the hell did he get that from? I mean, let alone the guns that he's not legally supposed to have. Where the hell did he get 10 pounds of tannerite from? I mean, you don't just go to Bristol Myers and buy that.
No. No, but it just shows that if you want it and you've got enough money, you can get it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm
what
agreeing
scares
with you.
me.
You know, this stuff is way too easy to get, even for just some crazy guy. Although, you know, I mean, did you see the mugshot of that kid? I mean, he looks like a hippie. You know, so maybe that was part of it too. You know, he just kind of looks like a flower child. So I guess nobody thought, hey, I have some Tannerite powder, dude.
What do you think he was going to do? Get high off it?
I don't know. I don't know too many uses for Tannerite powder besides what I read in the Anarchist Cookbook. I don't think you can clean your bathroom with it. Although, I mean, if you blew your bathroom up, I mean, it wouldn't be dirty anymore, right?
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, this stuff is way too easy to get. Not even just nuclear, refuse material. I mean, just regular, standard crap you can make into an explosive. And it's shockingly easy to do.
Yeah.
And that kid in Los Angeles wasn't even. You're saying he wasn't even legally allowed to own firearms. I'm just at a loss at how he obtained 10 pounds of Tannerite powder because there's nothing else you can do with it but make a bomb. I don't know. Just confused, I suppose.
By the way, those battery, I did a little search while you were discussing the Tannerite and the guy in Louisiana about the Russian suitcase nukes, and they believe that the batteries would have gone dead on them, and it probably is a special battery. And they believe they're probably at most 1 kiloton, which is a tenth of the size of Hiroshima.
That's still a lot of dead people, though.
Yeah.
You drop that in Times Square, that's still probably 500,000 dead people.
Right. But they said it would only send out lethal radiation in a half-mile radius.
Jesus Christ.
Which is still bad.
Yeah.
But
comparatively, it's...
Yeah.
Although radiation's even worse because you can't see it, right? It's not like... It's not like you can see it, right? It's not an explosive.
Nope.
Oh, that really sucks.
But they believe... basically, the article says that... Arms control expert Charles Thornton of the Center for International and Security Studies at the University of Maryland calls the scenario of Russian suitcase nukes so highly unlikely as to be approaching fantasy. And he said there's no evidence to suggest any scientist has been able to create a true suitcase-contained nuclear device. These are more likely, if they exist, they are more likely to be larger sized containers that are not so easily concealed. So you never know.
Well, I think suitcase nuke is just a clever word for a miniaturized nuclear device. I never actually thought they were physically in a suitcase. I just assumed it sort of like a teacup Yorkie. You know what I mean? Like it's not really a dog that's the size of a teacup. It's just small.
I'm sorry. Teacup dogs shouldn't exist.
I know. You're preaching to the choir on that one. I don't know where these things. People who breed these things are sinning against nature.
Well, since we decided to resurrect the Cold War, I do have another news story I'd wanted to touch on. The United States and NATO, for those of you who have been living under a rock, that's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Thank you, which is a military group, have been doing exercises in Poland. And I do actually have the audio. I managed to get the audio for that. So we're going to take a quick listen to that.
If Russia invaded an Eastern European country, how quickly could NATO react? Lieutenant General Ben Hodges is commander of the US Army in Europe. We flew with him on his helicopter to a major international exercise in Poland.
If there ever was a crisis, we would have to be able to mass quickly, to converge forces quickly on about, like within 72 hours.
And do you reckon you can?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah, that's what we're practicing. What the alliance needs is the equivalent of a military Schengen zone that would allow, assuming everybody meets EU standards for the highway, for us to be able to move around.
We fly north to the center of Poland to watch the war games.
Good ride. Good flight.
31,000 soldiers are involved from 24 different countries. The opening set-piece event is a mass parachute drop over the Polish plains.
You know, the airdrop might be American and British and Polish, but the audience is global. Hundreds of journalists here, certainly representing every European country. There is no way Vladimir Putin will miss this.
From here, the soldiers will split and march to various points to capture bridges and cross rivers. This is a very deliberate show of strength to a country that right now is enemy number one to NATO and is only a few hundred miles away from here.
What we'll have is we'll have a reaction from Moscow, and it goes round in circles, and there's this kind of game of who can appear strongest.
Yeah, there's a fine line, isn't there, between assurance, deterrence, irritation, all these things, but I think our political masters make their judgment and we do what they tell us.
I can tell you that you're going to have an absolutely perfect day here.
A few years ago, President Obama wanted to pivot away from Europe and focus instead on Asia. Russia, though, has stopped the Americans from doing that, and the bottom line is that Europe still needs the US military.
Could the EU do this? There's a lot of talk about an EU army at the moment. I mean, is this something that the EU could do?
The EU is extremely important, but it's an economic and political organization. NATO is a collective security organization, and I think, you know, for nations that are already strapped to meet all of their obligations as it is, to add another would not seem helpful.
This is the largest military exercise in Eastern Europe since the end of the Cold War. The Russians are watching, and on past form, you would expect them to react. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News, Torun in Poland.
All right, so NATO has just conducted the largest exercise in Europe. Actually, they're in Poland, which was formerly a member of the now defunct Warsaw Pact. Yes, they actually did the exercise in Poland, which I think is amazing. 31,000 troops. Now, the reporter asked the U.S. general, well, what about EU building an EU army instead of a NATO army to defend Europe? And the general rightfully answered that EU is a political and economic collective. It is not a military collective. That's what NATO was designed for. Now, what gets me about NATO? All right, I actually was worried a couple weeks ago that World War III was getting real close. Do you know why, Bill?
Probably something to do with Russia.
That was one of the 4 players involved. Turkey, who is a member of NATO,
unfortunately,
invaded Syria.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I will admit they didn't go very far in. They just went in enough to try and secure their own border. But had they decided to take this to an extreme, I could have seen Russia said, skip bombing you on Syrian soil. We're going to bomb mainland Turkey. Now, if Bashar al-Assad, who's being propped up by Russia, and Russia decides to bomb a member of NATO, then that NATO country is most likely going to say, Article 5, attack on one is an attack on all. You've got to come defend me. Now, the interesting thing about that invasion of Syria, it was backed by the U.S. Can anybody say proxy war?
Stupid.
Well,
Turkey is the stupidest country in NATO. They truly are. That guy is such a moron.
I'd almost rather have Jordan in there than Turkey.
So would I. I'd rather have Jordan than pretty much any of these people.
I mean, the leader of Jordan, when his pilot was burned
he's
alive,
a badass, that guy.
He actually wanted to get back in the air and go drop bombs himself.
That was so cool. Wish we had a president like that.
I think the closest one we've ever had would have, that had that kind of gumption.
Eisenhower.
I was thinking more recently. I was going to say in the last 40, 50 years would have been Reagan or W.
I don't think either of them would have gotten into a plane and dropped bombs. I could see Eisenhower doing that, though, or Andrew Jackson.
I could, too. Now, I think it was W that actually used to fly planes. I don't have all the facts on him again up under me. Now, granted, it was just reserve status, but he at least did something. He at least wore the uniform at some point.
Yeah, I don't think he actually ever logged any flight time, though.
He had to have gotten his wings. Now,
I thought
whether
he was in the Air National Guard, the reserves,
you still
or something
have
like
to
that.
log flight time to maintain your qualifications. They just make it less of a requirement. It's not as many hours. Because if they're
I'd have to look that up.
He was in some kind of reserve unit. I don't remember the details on it.
Yeah.
But like I said, at least he actually wore the uniform. Unlike the current Turkey-in-chief, and I'm sorry, I call the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue the Turkey-in-chief. Time only will tell what the nickname for the next one will be.
Toupee-in-chief.
Or
Cheeto-in-chief.
Well, there's two possibilities, and the polls are going so wild now, you don't know which way this is going to swing. We're either going to end up
mix it up and say liar-in-chief.
Yeah.
Could be either of them.
Or can't keep a secret. Loose lips in chief. I'm sorry, that woman. And I've been on this Hillary rant, but I'm going to do it just momentarily again. Okay, the DNC servers were just recently hacked. And hang on, let me finish before you cut in, Bill. I know you want to discuss this for a minute. All right, the DNC servers were hacked by a hacker named Guccifer2, which is paying homage to the original Guccifer, who did an interview with Fox News. The original is Guccifer. Who did an interview with Fox News and said, yeah, he did the interview before he made the deal with the feds, and said he hacked Hillary's server all the time.
Yep.
Now,
how nice.
Why? Okay, Russia has said that the State Department claimed it would take 75 years to provide all the documentation according to certain FOIA requests. Russia's I actually heard in a Russian newspaper article, they said they could produce all of Hillary's emails in 2 weeks. Does that scare you a little bit?
A little bit.
I mean, if Russia has all of her emails, including classified information emails that never should have been on an unsecured server.
Yeah, I mean, in their
I think the only yoga she's ever discussed is the pretzel she twists herself in to try and avoid saying that she's under FBI investigation. Because, I'm sorry, the FBI does not know what a security review is and has never conducted one. It is the Federal Bureau of Investigations. They conduct criminal investigations. And I have to honestly say, I hope this woman is indicted.
I think she probably will be.
What do you want to bet Turkey and Chief pardons her?
I don't think so.
All right, explain that one.
How would he do it? I mean, can you imagine the optics of that? She'd never win the election if that happened. He wouldn't be doing her any favors. He might spare her the jail time, but other than that, I mean...
Right, but I mean, he'd at least keep her out of jail, and she'd be able to go on living
yeah, what would be the point?
Her life. She wouldn't become the president. But
yeah, but Obama doesn't care. She makes racist jokes about him.
Oh, so you're telling me we have two racists running for the White House?
Basically, yeah.
I knew we had two idiots, but I didn't know we had two
Don't you
racists.
remember that comment that Bill made almost 10 years ago now about Obama?
I'll put it this way. I don't worry about what Bill said 10 years ago. I worry about what Hillary has said since she was Secretary of State and on. And I do look at her past statements because her name is the one on the ballot. But I don't necessarily look that closely at her husband.
He's the real power. He's always been the real power behind the throne. I mean, she'd be nowhere without him.
But I do think the dynamic has shifted a little bit. I'm not saying entirely. But I think the dynamic has shifted a little bit because Bill realizes he needs her because he can't do it himself anymore. Because he already did it for years.
He's old and he's sick and he's got heart problems. He probably doesn't even care anymore, to be really honest. I mean, if you look at him half the time on the
he'd probably care about the
he
interns.
looks like a corpse.
Yeah, he does look pretty bad on the campaign trail. But you've got to honestly say that job does artificially age every occupant who has ever had it.
Yeah, that's true.
The stress of that job does prematurely age every single occupant of that office. I don't care if you want to look at photos of Republicans, Democrats, whatever. The stress of that office prematurely ages everyone, bar none.
Yeah, just look at Obama. He looks terrible now.
Now, you were telling me about the DNC hacking scan. You know, the fact that DNC headquarters was hacked and what some of those emails said, because you hadn't had a chance to look through it all, but you have some of them. So, you want to tell me on air what they were going to do with the information as far as opposition research and reporters?
Yeah, there's this... one of the documents that was purloined off of the DNC servers was a document. It was like an inter-office memo, it looks like. And it was from May of last year. And two things come out that's kind of interesting in that document. The first one is that in May, no one had announced their intention to run for president on the DNC side. Nobody. I mean, it was assumed that Hillary would run, but, nobody knew for sure.
Right, and nobody knew if...
But they circulated this memo,
and they
basically.
also figured she'd run unopposed. They didn't figure anybody would challenge her. And I will give Bernie Sanders credit for at least attempting to challenge the status quo system.
Well,
I don't agree with him.
They wrote this inter-office memo, and it basically says, look, we have to find a way to defend Hillary Clinton and shore her up against Republican attacks. And, these are going to be what they're going to say, and this is what we got to do, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, dude, you guys just think, like, she's going to run unopposed? There's not going to be anybody else that's going to run? Like, it's just going to be her?
Yes, that's of course what they wanted. They thought it was going to be a coronation.
Well, that's the thing, that,
It's her term.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, Bernie Sanders has been saying this from the very beginning. The fix is in. It's just all about her and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? He's right. This proves it.
Like
And
I said,
then
I don't agree.
the
I
other
don't
thing
agree with
that's
his
in this
policies,
memo-
but I do agree with. And I've said this. I can find a couple of sentences from every politician that I agree with, and the fix being in for Hillary is one of Bernie Sanders' sentences I can agree with.
Yeah, it's totally true.
So,
and then
what were they going to do? What was in this memo?
Well, and then at the end of the memo, it discusses how to handle the press. And one of the things it says is that, if you find out that a reporter is going to be doing an interview with a GOP candidate, what you should do is find somebody who isn't well known to pass off opposition research to the reporters before they do the interviews.
Ooh, talk about playing dirty.
And get the reporters to use that data somehow that you give them. So,
just like what's his name that wrote all of Obama's speeches and helped with the Iran nuclear deal that didn't want to talk to Congress.
Yep.
I can't remember his name now.
I can't remember his name either, but I know who you're talking about.
Exactly. And, he did a public speaking engagement but wouldn't go talk to Congress. And Trey Gowdy was just fuming. He created an echo chamber of his own hand-picked reporters that he would talk to so that they would put out only the good stuff that he wanted them to put out. And basically we were sold a bill of goods.
Well, a lot of politicians do that. Donald Trump's doing that right now.
Well, yeah, but I will say at least he's not already president, and I don't think... if anybody... I don't think he believes that Iran will live up to the deal anyway, so I'm not sure he'd leave it in place, although you can never be too sure. It depends on which Donald we get, on which day and which hour.
Yeah, it's true.
So, but anybody who thinks that Iran doesn't cheat against sanctions and didn't cheat, we're going to end this real briefly because I can hear you getting exhausted there, Bill, and I'm kind of worn thin myself because we are recording this later, much later than usual. Anyway, so there is a book called Time to Betray. It is by Reza Khalili. That is the author's pen name. He writes under a pseudonym because Iran would still like to kill him. And he was a member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and betrayed his country, worked for the CIA for over a decade to try and fix his country. And he tells you how they evaded the sanctions back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And if you think they won't use the same basic tactics again, you are
You're
cuckoo
insane.
for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, there's no question about it. The Iranians are cheating on the sanctions, and the easiest way to know that they're cheating on the sanctions is because we would do the same thing. Anybody would. Laws are meant to be broken, and that's what they're doing. It's just, you have to catch them doing it.
Right, and
Well, you have to want to catch them.
And many of their undisclosed nuclear facilities are buried in mountains. So, all right, Bill, we are over time, actually. So before we make our way out of here, would you like to tell people where they can interact with you on Twitter and give out your Twitter handle?
At Defend Wall Street on Twitter. That's me.
All right, so... And I am at Jessie's POV. You can also email me at jessiespov@k98talk.org. You can also hit me up on my website. Now, I do have a little announcement I want to make. And Bill didn't even know I was going to do this. I'm starting a new show. Once a month, I'm going to do a show called Jessie's Coffee Shop. Obviously, I'm not actually going to serve you coffee. I have a love of books. If you haven't noticed by the number of times I have discussed books and authors and writing on my Saturday Slowdown. So, I am going to actually make it its own special series, its own special show, and do it once a month. We'll discuss books and writing, and I'm going to air it on Sundays. Now, I haven't decided exactly when it's going to start, probably not officially until July, but I'll give you a hint. I am going to be putting up more shows, more content on the show before it officially launches, because the 2 shows I've already done about writing and books are already over there. But I'm going to try and add some more content before I officially launch the show. I got to put a few things, more little bits and bobs in place. So, but yeah, I'm actually starting a separate show about books and writing, because I love to read. All right, Bill, I thank you for hanging in there with me through all the technical glitches tonight.
That's cool.
And I greatly appreciate you being here. And thank you, listeners. I know this was a long show. We definitely ran long. And I will see you tomorrow, hopefully at the regular time. I am out of here.